Erased Destiny 2, The Knower. Chapter 10, Change of Landscape. Turquoise-eyed, Nathan ran through Tyrdam, trying to locate Etien by following her spells. The sounds of wounded dragonflies and the screams of riders surprised by the attack of a winged enemy. However, he saw no sign of the girl herself, despite using all the methods developed by the Seekers. As himself, he relied on his senses, on his instinct, trapped in a body that was not his. He repeated the formulas he had learned in class. Without even looking at the guards blocking the road, Nathan ran into a side street and blocked the way behind him with ice. He had no time for pointless skirmishes, for fighting against people who were following orders. He ran out onto a slightly larger and more crowded square with wooden carts. He was greeted by crossbow fire, which Topes partially countered. The boy hid behind one of the carts and waited for the hunter to clear the way for him. He took advantage of the moment of silence to listen carefully to the sounds of the battle raging above them. He was pleased that despite the limitations of his body, he was able to locate his opponents, their speed of movement, and the direction of their flight. Fighting at night, they had an advantage over the residents of Tyrdam, although less than if they had been accompanied by vampires. Sleepy from the cold, the dragonflies could hardly get airborne. The guards could see poorly in the dark, so they couldn't aim properly. A large stone fell on a cart a few steps away from Jargon. A moment earlier, the stone had been a comet summoned by Etien. One flash was followed by another, and then another, until a huge ball of light hung in the sky. Nathan covered his eyes and let them return to their usual dull color. The sudden illumination of the battlefield breathed new energy into the losing defenders. It gave them hope of victory. Topes joined Jargon and pointed to a turret guarded by soldiers that towered over the small square. If they could take the turret, they would help Etien. They could shoot an ice storm at the enemies, or at least distract the numerous dragon riders. The headless carcass of an animal fell in the middle of the square, right in front of the guards marching in the rays of the artificial sun. While Etien was thinning out the enemy troops, Nathan tried to estimate their numbers. Even a cursory observation of the surroundings did not fill the boy with optimism. He counted about 40 fire mages and about 200 guards. In addition, there were at least 50 dragon riders and some priestesses. For the former Etien, this would not even be a point worth discussing. In the current situation, it could prove to be an insurmountable obstacle. Nathan gritted his teeth. He could not do much himself, and Etien. The more dangerous the situation seemed, the less willing she was to listen to anyone's advice. In the worst possible battles, she faced the threat alone. After surrounding the Crystal Palace with silver wings, she locked up all potentially endangered people in safe shelters and, in particular, delegated her bodyguards to other, equally important tasks. For example, observing the situation from the castle tower. While the hunter climbed the wall, Nathan used ice arrows to distract his opponents. He used an ice shield to deflect the arrows and a rain of icicles to force the guards to retreat behind the barricades. He searched his pockets, but found nothing useful. Furious with himself for not knowing the topography of Tyrdam, lacking equipment and even decent weapons, he showered his enemies with snow. Nathan looked up at the sky. His dearest's body was falling, surrounded by jagged black wings, followed by a stream of feathers.
The ice castle. The courtyard.
He threw himself flat on the ground, making the gesture required for this spell. He got to his feet. He ran towards the girl, buried in the snow, begging that she would be unharmed, that she would not die in the name of other people's wars. He shielded her with his own body, from arrows, from bolts, from spells, and even from the stings of pseudo-dragons. All his life, he had been her shield, the shadow of the Lady of the Crystal Palace. Meanwhile, Topaz climbed to the top of the tower. He waited for the guards to start shooting at Jargon, pulling Etien towards the nearest house, and climbed onto the wooden platform. He pushed all three out of the tower, picked up a crossbow, grabbed a quiver of bolts from the table, and stood by the wall. From above, he observed the guards lurking behind the chests, dragonflies circling above the crash site, and Jargon breaking down the door and dragging the motionless body into someone's house. Nathan terrorized the household with an ice sword. He forced everyone to go upstairs and blocked the stairs with ice. He knocked over a table and used it to block the front door, and then placed the unconscious girl behind it. He frosted the windows from the inside and did the same to the floor and ceiling. He was exceptionally powerful.
Etien. Etien. Can you hear me?
He sat down on the floor, leaned against Etien, and placed his hand on her heart. He put the other hand close to her mouth. She was breathing, and her heart was beating in a steady rhythm. Only on her shoulder a trace of someone's claws and coagulated blood were present. Nathan washed his friend's wound with snow for lack of disinfectant. The girl groaned softly. Her hand went to the back of her head and came across someone else's thigh.
Are you all right? Is everything with you okay?
I think so. My head hurts a bit, but it is nothing serious.
With her golden irises, she looked at the house and the family crowded one floor above. She did not sense any foreign consciousness near the house, so she allowed herself a few deep breaths and a quick assessment of her own health. Apart from the irritating headache caused by colliding with something very hard, she felt quite well.
I'm glad you followed me.
I'm glad too.
Jargon saw an icy wasteland before his eyes. On it was he, with an ice sword in his hand, and Etien, the ruler, in a silver robe. He saved her from a Yeti attack. The words they said back then were identical. Although back then, Etien didn't need Nathan. He saved her from casting a healing spell. That's what she said. Even that seemed like a great achievement to the young boy. Back then, he didn't know that Etien couldn't heal herself.
You shouldn't be here. I asked you to stay at home. I can't protect you.
With her words, Etien snapped Jargon out of his reverie.
And who will protect you, since you even sent Uzumit away? You've just hit the street and you think you don't need us?
Thank you for the rescue, and I promise to be more careful.
She stood up as if she intended to return to the fight with the mages. It was as if she had rested, regained her strength, and healed her bruised head. Nathan pulled her toward him. He wanted to establish a plan of action, find out what Etienne's priorities were, and what she intended to achieve with her nighttime diversion. It crossed his mind that if he slipped on his ice sword, his lips would land on his beloved's cheek, maybe even on her lips.
Why did you throw yourself at them? Zuzu has a large army at her disposal. You could have used.
Because I am an idiot.
The statement was so out of character for both the new and old Etien that Nathan tried to bandage her arm. It crossed his mind that the claws were covered in poison, that Etien was delirious from the toxin clouding her mind.
I can't come to terms with my own weakness, with the fact that I'm just a shadow of my former self, that I'm no longer able to save anyone, protect the magical balance, that even killing those outcasts is a challenge for me. All my life, I told my mages and adepts that behavior should reflect the power of the individual, and now what am I doing? I'm hiding my own hopelessness so as not to tarnish the image of the legendary Ninth Lady of the Crystal Palace in the eyes of a handful of mortals who didn't even know me back then. I'm an idiot.
She hid her face in her hands. She didn't know why she had started feeling sorry for herself in front of Jargon. Why had she allowed herself a moment of weakness and honesty? Maybe it was because he was a young boy, like Saskiel had once been. Etien thought that she had a weakness for young guys.
I wasted so much time and energy trying to find Nathan. And all for nothing. He disappeared without a trace. Now I'm glad I didn't succeed.
Why? You miss him. If he were here, he would have helped you somehow.
Because now Nathan is free. Free from this mess, from Zuzu's problems, from battles he couldn't win, from the expectations of all the people around me. I hope he's enjoying his life, that he doesn't have to fight anyone or anything. That he's happy. That's why. I don't think I'll look for him anymore. So he doesn't have to confront our children. So he doesn't have to choose the lesser evil, his own suffering. You know, I think I started to envy him.
What do you envy him for?
Nathan listened to Etienne's words from behind Jargon's back. He intended to reveal himself as soon as Etien finished speaking, as soon as Nathan found out how his beloved really felt. So that he wouldn't have to choose the lesser evil, she took the entire burden of their decisions upon herself. Once again, she wasn't allowing him to be a man. No, in their relationship, it was Etien who behaved like a man all along. He hoped that this time their roles would be switched.
I only regret one thing, that I didn't really say goodbye to him. That I didn't tell him what I should have. And now I won't have the chance.
What didn't you tell him?
That I'm proud of him. So proud. Nathan wasn't born an angel like me. He didn't have great power or a talent for magic, but he accomplished things that were impossible for others. It was only through his own hard work and persistence that he became a legend. I didn't praise him enough. I miss him so much. My favorite desert kid. I used to call him by this stupid nickname. But I guess it was meant to be this way.
Etien quoted Nathan, who had accepted his own end. It was meant to be this way. Etien drew the symbol of death on Jargon's forehead. Protection against the unpredictable and any weapon. She attributed his immobility and sudden helplessness to paralyzing fear. Fear. She had almost forgotten what it felt like.
I won't let you die. You know that, right? I'll heal every wound you get. What else are you afraid of?
That one girl will overestimate her abilities and I'll have to search for her in the land of the dead. They are coming for us. Promise me that after the battle we'll talk. Just the two of us. Promise me you'll accept my invitation. That you'll let me say what I want to say.
I promise. Please take care of the guards. The ones who will try to stop me from causing an earthquake. And you know, closing your eyes won't protect you from my magic. I respect other people's rights, including their right to privacy, so as long as your behavior doesn't seem to threaten the success of the mission, you can feel safe. I won't read your mind.
Tolps has taken one of the towers. I'll distract the guards, as you asked. Be careful, okay?
Without looking at Etien, Nathan jumped out from behind the table. He ran towards the window, which was being freed from the ice shackles, and covered himself in liquid light. Guards had surrounded the house already, so he had to clear the way first. Again, he didn't get a chance to tell Etien his secret. Etien teleported to Topaz. The deficiencies in the team's preparation for the conquest of Tyrdam wearing. Topaz had long since run out of arrows, and there were not many bolts left on the table. After all, they had not planned for open warfare. They had not planned to clash with enemy troops in the city streets. That's how it happened. Because of the rush. Etien did not have time to consider the reasons for the situation and her own planning mistakes. She quickly came up with an emergency solution. She wanted to ask the crystal for provisions, but shook her head instead. The crystal couldn't hear her anymore. It would never again fix her mistakes or help her realize her bold visions.
Yes, Mom. Do you need anything?
Bring the bottle of Ice Age and many bullets of all calibers. A portable seeker's shield, alcohol.
After a while, the items Etien had ordered appeared in front of her. The girl poured half of the bottle's contents on her head and shoulder, drank the rest, and threw the empty vessel against the wooden boards. Alcohol was strong enough to make her cough, but that didn't matter.
I hope that's enough. The dragonflies naturally inhabit the desert, right?
That's right. They are warm-blooded creatures. They can't swim and they freeze during the cold nights.
Freezing rain.
Instead of snapping her fingers, Etien threw her hands up in the air as if she were casting a spell of the ice storm. She remained in this forced position until the sky above her darkened and snow began to fall from the clouds, freezing on the surfaces it landed on. The artificially induced day, along with the sudden snowfall, which no one in Tyrdam had ever seen before, caused the city's inhabitants to hide under their beds, sensing the imminent end of the world.
Eliminate the falling dragonflies, and I'll deal with the mages.
Good luck, my lady.
Etien is quite enough, and I'm sorry that the mission doesn't go according to the plan. That you have to fight.
She spread her wings and flew away before Topaz could reply. He didn't want to kill for money. To eliminate opponents of someone who just happened to have a few silver coins to spare. As he shot at the frozen, stiffened monsters, he thought of Etien, of the fight she was waging to restore balance to the world. He couldn't help feeling that if he wanted to serve anyone, it would be this ruler. He felt like running after Etien wherever she went. After a while, he remembered Lena and their children. He smiled slightly. Etien had an extraordinary gift for inspiring people. Wherever she appeared, there were always volunteers ready to help her. No, she found them. She encouraged them to achieve great things, to overcome their fears and limitations. With her, everyone became a better version of themselves. They achieved what seemed to be beyond their reach. Thinking about their hunts together, Topaz began to notice things he hadn't paid attention to before. Too busy learning the arcana of tracking and skinning animals, he hadn't noticed how much effort the apprentice put into obeying orders. How she refrained from using magic, from looking into Topaz's thoughts to make her tasks easier. She adapted to the hunter's requirements, even though it was unnatural and burdensome for her. Only in Tyrdam did Topaz see the real Etien, the leader of the palace army. A person to whom everyone listened, including the 11th lady. Someone who used her own talents, the skills of her team members, and the opportunities that presented themselves to achieve something great beyond comparison.